Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. I hope you're doing awesome. This is the third in our 10-part little series around entrepreneurial spirit, leveraging it. And this is part 3. So we're going to be talking about doers, not sayers, the power of taking action. Everyone, we're all on this kick right now here on the How to Podcast series around getting beyond the vast collection of knowledge and getting into the vast collection of action. And getting going with this podcast already. Come on, we're ready to do this. We have enough information to do what we need to do. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. And we're talking about this entrepreneurial spirit. So if this is your first time here, there's 2 other episodes before this. And we're going to do this over a span of 10 episodes. But this entrepreneurial spirit really is this mindset that's characterized by innovation, resilience, and the willingness to take risks. People with an entrepreneurial spirit, they're driven by a vision for what they want in life, for their podcast, for their relationships. They're driven by these things. They adapt to change because change is inevitable. It's going to happen. So you have to learn to adapt to it no matter what we're talking about. And you're going to see setbacks in your journey as a podcaster. You're going to get that nasty review. You're going to get those days where you don't feel like doing it. You're going to feel like there's just days where this podcast thing's not happening. There's setbacks that are going to come before you, and it's going to be how you learn to grow in and around your setbacks and the things that hold you from moving forward with your show. That's when we tap into our entrepreneurial spirit. So I want to talk today a little bit more about this whole idea about dreamers versus doers, and to move from intention, like I have this intention to have a podcast, I have an intention to record my next episode. Intention's great, but without action, intention's not going to get you anywhere. We need to get into cultivating a more entrepreneurial spirit with our podcast journey. And first, we got to determine the difference for us and how we define a dreamer versus a doer. See, now for me, if somebody asked me this question, Dave, what are you, a dreamer or a doer? I would say I'm a hybrid of both. At times I love dreaming, at times I love doing. And I kind of bounce back and forth. So I wouldn't say that I'm hyper one or the other. I just kind of how my brain's wired and how I show up in the world. I don't think I would ever say that in any point of my life I was either just a dreamer or just a doer. So, but for you, where do you fit on this? How would people describe you? Are you a dreamer? Dreamers, they're great. Like they can imagine possibilities. They can see beyond other people. They can see far into the future. They brainstorm like with ease. They just seem to have everything they need to do the planning side. They're really good at planning. They're really good at big picture, blue sky thinking. All these terminologies. They even have time to come up with the term blue sky and deep ocean and all these things. They have time for that. And because they're great at dreaming and building out all these amazing plans. But sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes dreamers get stuck in this planning and what if phase of their journey. And the action part is nowhere to be found. Doers, on the other hand, could really benefit from having a dreamer in their life because doers get so caught up in the tasks, the task list, the to-dos, the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and I got to get through this list before lunch. The doers don't always stop and take a step back and go, now how does this fit into the big picture of my life, the big picture of my podcast? Because they're so focused on hit record, do the edit, get the thing done, Instagram post, video clips, done, guests, emails, bang, 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 website update, bang, bang, done. And in that, they don't think about what this episode and what this conversation and what this podcast could mean for them in the future. And things catch them by surprise. Opportunities catch doers off guard because they hadn't even thought when somebody reaches out to them and goes, I love your show. Could you be a speaker at my event? And they're like, a what? They're so busy with the creating of the podcast, they don't even realize that being a podcaster, showing up on a regular basis and delivering great content, building a community, makes you the perfect speaker at an event because they're so caught up in the doing. They don't push back from the table and dream a little. I think for you, if you are self-identify as a dreamer, that you need to buddy up with somebody who's a doer. You need to grab a coffee with them and just pick their brain. For the doers, you need to get a bigger picture of what you're doing in life and what you're doing with your podcast. So align yourself with somebody who's a dreamer. And for all you doers, it's going to help you to see a bigger picture and how you show up in this world. Dreamers and doers, you guys need to work together. So however you identify yourself right now, and if you're like me and you're kind of a hybrid of both, then I need to get close to somebody who's a dreamer and somebody who's a doer, because there's elements of both in my life. And that's going to benefit me. So I need two people in my life. And that's why I do my meetups with the podcasters that join us from the How to Podcast series. We get together twice a week and I spend time with dreamers and doers because that makes me a better person. So if you're interested in that, you can always reach out to me at howtopodcast.ca. Love to have you come and join us. The key difference between a dreamer and a doer is that we're different. We approach life differently and we need each other. That's the key difference and the key similarities there. What about overcoming procrastination and perfectionism? The last thing I want to do is put off my show or be caught up in this trap of being perfect. No, the reason why is because, well, let's do the perfectionism thing for a second. I don't want to put out a crappy podcast. I don't want to put out crappy content. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. I could be doing something else right now. And the whole idea of procrastinating is just simply kept putting off what I could do now. I'm going to do it tomorrow. We, as podcasters, we need to identify the resistance that's in front of us. What is keeping us from moving forward and what's keeping us from putting out what we can with what we have where we are? Are you waiting for the perfect time to start your podcast? Are you waiting for the perfect episode, the perfect guest, the perfect something or something or something? Perfectionism often masks a fear of failure, a fear of looking stupid, a fear of putting out bad content onto the internet for everyone to see. And we're afraid of failing in front of people. We're afraid of failing in public. To overcome procrastination and perfectionism, you got to set a deadline. And you need to be held accountable to this deadline. Somebody needs to know, whether it's your new audience, a fellow podcaster, trusted friend or family member, a coach. My hand's slowly raising in the background here. Somebody, you need to tell somebody, this is the date that I'm going to release my next episode or my new podcast. And set a deadline. Create a date. If you don't show up for your dentist appointment, you get a phone call before your appointment. You'll get a phone call the day of your appointment going, hey, where's Dave? And you might even get billed for not showing up. So there's got to be some kind of pain point and accountability for a missed deadline. Set a deadline. Treat your podcast like a professional commitment. Like your wedding day, like a job employment interview, like your first day at work, like your first date. Set something that is a professional commitment to yourself, to your show, to your audience. And regular release schedules, they help you to build discipline. By simply being there and showing up on a regular basis, you will develop and you will get over your fear of failure, and it won't sting as much. We, as podcasters, we need to embrace imperfection. We don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. I hear a lot of people saying, I'm just put it out the way I am and everything I do is perfect. Well, no, you're not. Early episodes may not be flawless, but each one that you do is 1% better than the last one. It's a stepping stone towards growth and improvement. You will be very disappointed in yourself as you start the podcast and go, I should have started this so long ago. What was I worried about? Why did I wait so long? Now that I'm doing this, I'm seeing progress. And I could be so much further had I started when I originally had the idea. I kept putting it off because I was afraid somebody would laugh at me or someone would hate me or I'd get some terrible comment from some troll that I never started. But had I started when I wanted to, I could be so much further. It's time to start. Each one of these podcast episodes that you do is a stepping stone towards the next best thing. You want that great guest? You're going to spend a lot of time with people that aren't probably the best guests, or they're new, or they're unknown at this point. But when you speak to people, you're going to develop your own tone, your own questions, your own flow, and you're going to be better at episode 600 than you'll ever be at episode 2. So you can't get to episode 600 without episode 2. It's a math thing. So do the episodes, start now, get going, get practicing, learn in public. Join the journey, not just the destination. Overcome procrastination, perfectionism by podcasting, by being there and showing up for your community. That's how you're going to do it. Some action steps towards moving from idea to implementation for your podcast. What do we need to do? This will be hard for dreamers to do because it's a task thing. It's going to be hard for doers to do because you haven't dreamt about your show yet. But break down your big ideas. Turn your podcast vision into small, manageable tasks. Like outline one episode, record 10-minute segment, draft an intro, create your episode title. These are all little manageable tasks. Start with breaking down the big idea. I've heard people compare this to losing weight. Now, I have been a pretty skinny guy all my life, so this hasn't really been a thing for me, and I'm grateful for that, and I can't gain weight. It's my thing. Anyway, but when I hear people talking about weight loss, instead of focusing on the number, how many pounds you're going to lose, how much weight you're going to lose, instead focus on the healthy tasks that are going to lead you to losing weight. And instead of getting on the scale every 5 minutes to see if you lost weight, how about drinking more water and marking that down, keeping track of how much water you're drinking? How about going for a walk with the dog every day and the consistency of doing that? Those seem in the big picture to be unrelated to losing weight, but you're creating healthy tasks in support of losing weight. In podcasting, instead of focusing on the big task, creating my podcast, focus on all the little tasks that lead up to creating your podcast, doing your research, listening to a podcast about podcasting, getting a book about podcasting, doing all that kind of behind the scene things, practicing, record yourself, get a microphone. All of these things are things you can be doing, which combined together lead to the result of your podcast. So instead of being upset with yourself that you don't have a podcast, focus on what you can do as foundational steps that make your podcast easy to start, and start doing those. Turn your podcast vision into small, manageable tasks. The second one, set some micro goals, not these big, huge, audacious goals that just seem so big that nobody's going to attain these. I'm going to start my show and have 100,000 downloads on episode 1. Right. Set some micro goals. Celebrate completing a script. Celebrate booking a guest. Celebrate recording and publishing your trailer. Progress fuels momentum. Progress is the fuel for momentum. As you set these micro goals, then iterate quickly. Launch with what you have. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Launch with what you have. Gather feedback. tweak and improve. When you launch your podcast, not many people are going to know about it, especially if you don't tell anyone. So you have this sandbox to play in that nobody knows what you're doing. And you can always delete or change or update or whatever, improve on what you've done in the past. You have the freedom to play. And you don't have to tell anybody that your podcast is live. You can even podcast under a different name and play. Put it out as an audio podcast. You don't even need to be on video to start, and just play. Learn how to push all the buttons and do all the things. You don't have to start and be perfect out the door. And when I hear people say today, even in 2025, that your first few episodes are going to suck, then I push back lovingly and gently on that advice, because who says your first episode has to be your first episode? What if you practice 50 times on your phone, just you and the phone, and then you delete it, and you just get better and better and better as you practice? Technically, episode 1 of your real podcast is actually episode 51, because you've already done 50 versions of it in practice. You've already got a whole year's worth of content you've recorded and deleted. So you're 1 year of experience on episode 1 because you've done it 50 times already. This whole thing about episode 1 is going to be terrible. I think we need to stop saying that. There's too much knowledge out there now. Maybe back in the early days of podcasting, this was true. There's way too much knowledge now to say that that's a common practice, that every episode 1 sucks. It doesn't have to. Launch with what you have. Gather feedback. Tweak and improve. Don't wait for everything to be ready. Your podcast will never be ready, just like it will never be perfect. Somebody asked me recently, Dave, what's your best episode for your show? And my response, I don't know. I haven't recorded it yet. And the look on their face was like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to know the good episode number. Where should we send people? I'm like, what's my favorite podcast episode, or what's my best? Because my best hasn't happened, and I have 2,000 episodes. It hasn't happened yet. I don't have a best episode. I have a 1% better episode than last time. And on this whole 1% thing for a second, just a little side thing. Instead of saying my podcast is in the top 1% of all podcasting, which is a number that really can't be proven by anybody, by the way, and makes you look a little silly, just so you know. Instead of saying my podcast is in the top 1%, how about you say my podcast is 1% better than the last episode? Why not? Because that should be our goal. Being on a chart and being one of the most popular podcasts in the world gives you what? Exactly. Being a podcaster that gets 1% better every time you record, now that's a metric we can measure. So focus on that 1% and focus on your audience, that 1% listening to your show. Remember that one person? Yeah, focus on them. Iterate quickly as you set these micro goals. And then lastly, just build accountability. Share your goals with your audience or a podcast community, a group of creators, somebody who knows what you're doing and is doing something similar to you, not somebody who has never heard of a podcast. They'll love you, they'll pat you on the head and tell you you're doing a great job, but they don't understand what you're doing. Public commitments increase follow-through. And all these people that I meet that say, I'm going to start a podcast, and 5 years later they're saying, I'm going to start a podcast, haven't committed themselves in public to their audience. They've committed themselves to themselves and the idea as a dreamer, but they have no action and no doing to substantiate the dream of having a podcast. We need to celebrate small wins in our progress as well. As you get your podcast going, you need to celebrate your small wins. It's really important to do this. Don't forget to do this. Acknowledge your milestones. Each episode published is a milestone. Even with one episode, that's a milestone. Probably the hardest one to get out there. It gets better, I promise. Episode to episode, it gets better. Acknowledge any download milestone if that's really important to you. Acknowledge the listeners that message you and leave you a message and celebrate them. Make them a big deal. Celebrate the countries that you're being listened to. Celebrate every opportunity, every comment, every heart, every like, every whatever. Celebrate them. Honor the people that reach out to you. Reflect on your growth. Listen back to the earlier episodes and note your progress. Again, 1% better every episode. This builds confidence and resilience. You know you're getting better because you've heard it wasn't that great. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't that great, but you can tell it's getting better. Your questions are getting better with your guests. Your intros are better. Your podcast is more condensed and the content is richer. It's not spread out over a long period of time. It's 45 is now 30 minutes because you're getting tighter on your message. Those are all things of you getting better. And that happens by doing, not by dreaming. Share your journey. Let your audience in on your process and how you're growing. And let your authenticity build through connections and through community. Share your journey, not just the destination. Some key takeaways as we wrap up here, and I want to share these with you as we head towards the door. Action beats intention every day, all the time. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start, learn, and adapt. Don't wait for perfect conditions. You're going to have to get out there, and you need to get started. Progress is better than perfection. Each step forward is a victory. Entrepreneurial spirit matters. Embrace the innovation. Embrace resilience. And embrace a willingness to take risks. See setbacks as lessons and not failures. And overall, your voice matters. Every episode you release is a contribution to your audience and the podcasting community by you simply showing up. Be a doer. Be a doer. Press record, publish, and iterate. Your story and your action combined can inspire others to find their own voice and take their very next step. Whether it's for them to start a podcast, maybe your podcast inspires someone to write a book. Maybe your podcast inspires someone to share their voice or make a big decision or do something special in life because they heard you. I'll give you an example as we go out the door. I had a guest on my show, my author podcast, and I'm not an author as the host of the show. And I had a guest on, and she wrote a chapter in a collaborative book with other authors, but she only wrote one chapter. So I asked her, what does it feel like to be an author? And she said, I'm not an author. I just wrote one chapter. And in the recording, it's funny because I challenged her and went, well, that's technically not true. I'm not an author because I'm not in any book. You're an author because you wrote a chapter. Just because it's a chapter doesn't mean you're not an author. You're in a book. You're a published author. And she sent me a message years later and said, okay, I did it. I wrote my first book, my own book, not just a chapter. And it's because of you. You called me out on that day and gave me the spark to write my book. And in some small way, I am, as the host of that podcast, Living the Next Chapter, I am for this author the inspiration for her to share her story and acknowledged in her book. Yeah. As a podcaster, I helped somebody find the courage to write their book. And now they're a published author on their own without anyone else in their book because of some guy in Canada. So you have this great idea for a podcast and you're sitting on it like a hen with eggs, hoping it'll hatch someday. It's time to get off the eggs. It's time to get going. It's time to get started. Get that microphone out of the box that you bought years ago. It's time to start. Because you're not going to have impact on an author encouraging them to share their story by sitting in your house dreaming about a podcast. Your connection with people will happen when you start. Was that episode with that author perfect? Nope. Not at all. But somebody's life is different because of a conversation that happened on a podcast. And why can't that be your show? It's time to start. It's time to lean into your entrepreneurial spirit, to move from not just saying you have a podcast or a podcast idea, but to doing and getting on the path of action. Route 66 is a great road, but you're going to enjoy it more by driving it than flying over it. It's not always about the destination, it's about the journey. Share your journey in front of your audience. Get out there and start. It's time to get going. And if you need help, howtopodcast.ca. We're going to be back on for the next episode. We're going to continue our conversation around this entrepreneurial spirit and the things that we're going to be doing as podcasters. And we're going to be talking about some quick but thoughtful decision makers and why that's important in podcasting for our next episode. Hope you can come back. Thanks for being here. Hey, thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to the end of the podcast. You're here with me. I'm so grateful. I want to put something in front of you. For the person that's listened this far, you're my new best friend. So what I'm trying to do every month is I have a goal, and you can help me with this goal. Very simple. What I'm trying to do is have 5 conversations this month with listeners of the How to Podcast series. You don't have to have a podcast to respond. This can be the first time ever that we're going to have a conversation, but I'm looking to talk to 5 people. Now, you're still here, so you're one of the people that I would love to talk to next. So on my howtopodcast.ca website is a calendar, and I'd love to have you respond on howtopodcast.ca. Just click the calendar link, set up time in my calendar, and in the comments section for the meeting, just put something like listener. That's it. If you have a show, put it in the comments too so I can go listen. But if you don't, I just want to talk to 5 listeners every month from now to the end of the month. So if you're listening to me right now, you're the person I want to talk to. And through howtopodcast.ca, you and I can get together, chat about the show, chat about your journey as a podcaster. Where are you at? What do you need this show to become for you? What's missing? Your feedback. I just want to meet you. And as podcasters, I would encourage you to do something similar to this in your podcast so that you can meet and interact with your audience. So, howtopodcast.ca, I'm looking to talk to 5 people every month, and I would love for you to be one of them. Reach out. It's free. I'm not selling you anything. I just want to talk to you at howtopodcast.ca. Let's get in the calendar and chat. Thanks for listening.